Hello everyone, thank you for watching the second video as we go over how to change percents to decimals. And so I think this is the most challenging aspect for students. If you see a pattern, some students say that's 65 divided by 100. And if you do that, notice your decimal place moves 2 places to the left. So if you have 6.5%, that's 6.5 divided by 100 or out of 100. So you move your decimal place 2 places from where it starts. It starts here, so you move it 2 places to the left. So that's a shortcut, but it is the same as division. So if you need a calculator, type in 65 divided by 100 and get your decimal. Again, down at the bottom, let's try it again. 5 out of every 8 albums that Javen owns are jazz. So what percentage does he have that collects jazz? So you do 5 divided by 8, which is 0.625, and you move your decimal places 2 places to the right to get the percent sign. So now this time we're moving it to the right because we had the decimal, and now we're changing it to a percent. That means 62.5 out of 100. So you're going to practice that and check your knowledge. Notice that sometimes it asks you to write it as a fraction. Remember, percent means out of, per means out of, cent means 100. So if you're writing this one 45% as a fraction, you can just write that as 45 out of 100. 68%, how would you write that? Per means out of, cent means 100. So the rest of these are percents as a fraction. Now take a look at the percent as a decimal. This is where we move our decimal. So you might need to go back up to slide 5. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit so I can see it a little better. I'm getting old here. 8% as a decimal means that we got to move the decimal. So notice that we're doing 8 out of 100 because that's as a fraction. But that means that 8 has to land in the hundredths place. Let's try another one. 95.4% literally means 95.4 out of 100. So notice that my 0.95 has to land in the hundredth spot. And then you have the 4, so you just tack that on to the end because that means 954 thousandths. If you didn't want that to be a decimal, you could say 954 thousandths if you wanted to get rid of that. And so that also says 954 thousandths. So notice I just took my decimal and I moved it 2 places this time to the left. All right, so you have 3% as a decimal. What does that mean as a fraction? Can you change that to the decimal? 6/20ths is not out of 100. So we have to change it. Remember last week in our bell ringers, I had you practice finding how to make 100. So we have to make this 20. We have to make 20 become out of 100 this time. It's not out of 100 yet. So how does 20 become 100? Times 5. 20 times 5 makes 100. So I have to take 6, and I have to do the same thing. If it's going to be equivalent, it's got to do the same thing to the top. So 6 times 5, because 20 times 5 made 100, so 6 times 5 makes 30. Now that's 30 out of 100. Now it's out of 100. So what is 30 out of 100 as a percent? Hope that makes sense. All right, notice this one. 3 out of every 10 votes won't be 3% because that 10 is not out of 100. You've got to make 10 become 100. Think back to last week's work where we practiced how does 10 become 100. It is a factor of 100, so how does 10 become 100? And whatever you do to make 10 become 100, you have to do the same thing. You have to do the same thing to make it out of it. And it says, what is the approximate percent? I changed the question, so it will be an exact percent. It will be a number. So try this one. Look at this question. It says 17 out of 20 questions correct. What percent did you get incorrect? So again, 20 is not out of 100, and you won't do 17. So think about that. Think through that one. Then you have an exit slip. write 35% as a fraction, write 57% as a decimal, and what is 7/20ths as a percent. Now notice that's not going to be 7% because that 20 is not 100. You've got to make it become out of 100. I hope that makes sense. If not, reach out to me and I'll be glad to answer any questions that you have. All you have to do is comment or send me an email, or you can call the school, 234-7123. I'll be glad to do a Google Meet with you and help you on whatever questions you may have. All right. Hope you're well. Miss you. See you soon.